So if you're ready, Sue, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, Tim. So let's get started. I've been working with quality culture since 2014 when the FDA came out with a proposal for metrics. And it became apparent that unless you have a culture, a good, robust culture behind the metrics, and the metrics really were meaningless. So we started on this path of how quality management systems actually reflect your quality culture. And the link that I'm going to make is through audit responses. I know that sounds a little weird, but I'm going to present like 3 scenarios, actual real audit questions, and we're going to look through the answers, the potential answers. One of them was actually the answer people gave in the audit, and we're going to try to talk about how those answers reflect the quality management system of that company. So when I think of audits, I think that you're in a fishbowl. That's what it feels like. So that's why I have the cat with the fish, because you really are in a fishbowl. You're the fish in the bowl, and you have people viewing you and listening to and determining if your responses are in fact adequate and answer the question. What I want to remind people of is the quality management system. This is a modern diagram, and we've included quality culture here on the top. So quality culture, and now it's not the quality department's culture. It's the culture of the entire organization. So think of it as the culture of the company. And under that what drives the culture is the people. And then what drives the people, or what drives your quality management system, of course, is the documentation. It's all of the information that you collect through change management, your product knowledge and understanding, your quality risk management, all of those items under documentation all come together and define your quality management system. Now, there are regulations out there currently that start to open up the idea of culture is being an important part of assessments. And you can see that these are the guidelines that have come out. There's a code of conduct. Now, most of them link to data integrity. So that's the key link. When we talked about the metrics and we talked about the data, if you don't have the right culture, you are going to have data integrity gaps. And so the regulators have basically recognized this and have recognized that you can't have confidence in the data if you don't have confidence in the culture. Now, the one definition that I like comes from the World Health Organization, and it's their guidance on good data and record management practices. What I like about this is they actually give you a definition of quality culture. We don't see that in the other regulations. They talk about it and how it's important, but this one actually defines what it might look like. And so that's why I point this out to you. They talk about senior management being, actively discouraging management practices that might reasonably be expected to inhibit the active and complete reporting of such issues. So we don't want to have that blame culture. Somebody makes a mistake, a deviation occurs. I used to work for a company that would say, okay, I'm going to CAPA you. And you don't want to send that message to the people, because then they begin to hide things from you. And that impacts your quality management system, and it impacts your ability to drive to root cause, which then impacts your ability to implement continuous process improvement change. And that's really what we're looking for in a quality culture, is continuous process improvement, that you're taking the information and you're making improvements to your organization to be more efficient and effective, and not compromise patient safety or product quality. So I'm just going to say that the scenarios being presented really happened. The different options are intended to help you think about the way quality culture might impact the response to an auditor's concerns and observations, even when the situation seems dire. So things happen. So the first one we're going to talk about is training. And here's your scenario. You can be whatever you want to be here, a CMO, a contract test lab, or a pharmaceutical manufacturer, and you're being inspected by the FDA, another health authority, or a client. So this is choose your adventure. So in this scenario, the inspectors are reviewing the sterility testing procedure and asked to see the training records of an employee who has routinely performed the final product sterility test. You collect the record from the document control center and review it before taking it into the inspectors. You discover that the training record for the sterility test for this employee is not in their training record. So you ask the employee if they have the record, and they say it's in their training folder with the document coordinator. You ask the document coordinator to look through some of other analysts' training records in case the training record got misfiled. Document control coordinator indicates they did not find the missing training record. 1 hour has passed since you received this request, so what do you do? So we're going to look at a couple of possible answers. So you go to your office, you compose a memo. The memo vouches that the employee was trained, but the document demonstrating the training was lost. You sign and date the memo. You have the employee sign and date the memo, and you ask your boss to sign and date the memo. You then take the memo to the auditors as proof of training. So if you have this response, what does that actually say about your quality management system? You're a little out of control. You're relying on memory, so you don't have the hard evidence. You're not addressing the fact that you lost the training record, nor are you acknowledging the fact that, hey, maybe this is like an overall problem with my training program in that aspect of the quality management system. So it doesn't send a real strong message to the auditor or the person who's inspecting you that you're in control of your systems. All right, let's look at the next potential response. You go back into the audit room and you tell the inspector that you cannot find the training record for this test for this employee. You show them the other training records in this person's folder, and you say that it is only logical that the person was trained on the sterility method. So you aren't relying on, you're not producing any evidence of your training program, how robust it is. There's no, again, it doesn't send a strong message to the inspector, the auditor, that you are in control. You haven't looked at anybody else's training records. You haven't searched for the training record in any other folders. You basically just say, well, it's only logical, and you really have no explanation. Now, the problem is this person has been releasing product. So you can't produce evidence that they understand the test that they're performing, and that is a problem. So this does not speak well to your quality management system or your ability to answer the question. Okay, so option 3, you go back into the audit room and you say you can't find the training record for the sterility test. You provide the rest of the training record to the auditors. You tell them that you have opened an investigation into the issue to see why the training wasn't properly documented and what impact that may have on the product that was released by this employee. You indicate that you are going to look at the entire training program to see if this has ever happened and to determine how you can prevent it from happening in the future. Now, this speaks to a much more robust or confidence in your quality management system. You are confident in your CAPA procedure and your investigation. You're confident that you have a good training program that is documented. You just have this one deviation, and you're going to look and see exactly what happened, and you're going to take a look at the product. That's key here. The person who released the product who isn't properly documented, they may well have been trained, but if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So you're going to look at what impact that might have had on the product. So you're going to take that backward look and say, they released so much product, and I have to see if it was appropriate for them to do so, or if the product is still appropriate to be out in the field. Okay, and your last option, it is late in the day and the auditors should be leaving soon, so you stall. After the auditors leave, you ask everyone to do a comprehensive search for the training record. The record is not located, so you decide to reproduce the training record from memory and present it to the inspectors in the morning. So this just qualifies as falsification. You're going to recreate something from memory. You're going to present it as an original document. You have no confidence in your quality management system to open an investigation to find out what happened. You're basically in panic mode, which doesn't speak well to your control of your systems. Now, what really happened, and the answer that really was given in this situation, is actually this option. And what happened to the company was the auditor, who happened to be a client, it was a contract manufacturing organization, a customer, a client was in to do the audit. They suspected that there was some falsification going on, and so they dug into the whole quality management system. And in fact, the contract manufacturing organization lost that client. And you can see how, each one has a varying level of accuracy or confidence behind your systems. The best one, of course, is the one where you're going to open up investigation and you're going to find out what happened and you're going to lead to root cause and fix it. And there comes your continuous process improvement and your confidence in your quality management system. When I see answers like that, I go, okay, these people understand what they need to do, and they understand the implications of that missing training record. Okay, so let's get ready for the next one. This one is a failed equipment qualification. We all have to qualify and validate our equipment, and sometimes things happen during that validation. So again, your scenario, you're being inspected by, you're either a contract manufacturer or pharmaceutical manufacturer. You're being inspected by your client, the FDA, another health authority. So they're reviewing your equipment validation qualification program, and they ask to see the most recent qualification for a depyrogenation oven. The qualification for that oven has an investigation associated with it. The investigation was because the temperature recorder was out of tolerance and recording temperatures higher than the actual oven temperature. The last passing qualification for the temperature recorder was 2 years ago. The investigation is not as complete as you would like, but you show it to the investigators anyway. They're not happy with the investigation because there's no product impact assessment to justify the safety of the product. One of the inspectors asks you directly why you feel the product was safe to be released and why this issue should not be considered a public health issue. Code for why are you not recalling the product? He goes on to say that you do not need to answer immediately, but he will expect your answer before the close of the audit. You leave the room to go collect your thoughts. You return to the room later during the inspection and tell the inspector that you have an answer to his question. So the scenario here is, what are you going to tell him? So option one, you indicate that even though the chart recorder was off, the oven was not hot enough and the cycles were long enough. The oven was hot enough and the cycles were long enough to kill the pyrogen, so the product is safe. The temperature recorder has been fixed and there should be no issues. You pass him a book explaining the principles of dehydrogenation. So what does this answer say about someone's quality culture? Well, it's kind of arrogant. It's not really taking the situation seriously. It's not explaining at all, even though, dehydrogenation is the dwell time and how much exposure to the heat and at what temperature to kill the pyrogen. So you don't present any data and you just say, here's our book. So this doesn't speak, you don't have any confidence in what it really takes, nor do you understand your quality management system and the data you've collected to really explain why this isn't a problem. All right, your second option, you tell the inspector that you have looked back over the data and have determined there is no risk to the product because of the endotoxin monitoring that is performed at the site. Namely, the WFI is monitored daily for endotoxin. The raw material being used to manufacture the product, including the API, is tested for endotoxin as a part of incoming receipt. The glass is tested for endotoxin as a part of incoming release. Each lot of product is tested for endotoxin as a part of the final product acceptance criteria, and there have been no complaints for fever for your products for the last 2 years. Okay, this one to me really resonates and speaks of a well-documented, well-established, functioning quality management system. Because in a short period of time, very rapidly, you were able to collect all of this information about where you monitor for endotoxin and why this one glitch would not affect the product. You have data to suggest that you are in control of the endotoxin, right? You have a lot of data, you've utilized it, you've defended it. All right, so it speaks of a robust quality management system. Now this one, you go and you tell them you have initiated a voluntary recall for 200 lots of product made during the time frame the oven was failing. Well, this one tells me that you don't have a lot of confidence. You don't understand the data that you've collected. You don't understand your monitoring points for your product, and you're just caving in and you're going to recall everything that you made. So again, it doesn't speak to, if someone answered that, I would go, wow, they don't really have any confidence at all in what they're doing or their quality management system or the ability to tie data together and read the room, basically. What really happened in this scenario, the answer that was given was this one. And the inspector accepted the answer and said that was a lot of good data. What they wanted was a 3-year look back to make sure that there were no other deviations for the oven being out of tolerance, and to respond, to put all the data that was collected into the response to the observation. Obviously, there was going to be an observation, but because the data existed, and because you understood the data and were able to tie the links, you had a robust, it indicates to the inspector, you have a robust quality management system, and you understand all the impacts of the data you're collecting and how it affects your product, and makes it suitable for release. Okay, are you getting it? Yeah. I know it's kind of hard. It's a little bit different way of thinking, but if you look at the answers, you'll see where the more robust your system is, the better your answers are going to be during an inspection, and you're going to panic a lot less. So let's look at, we call this old product filings. Everyone has old products. You'd like to update them, but everybody says, oh, we don't want to open the files. It's a mess in there, In some cases, they're called grandfathered products. They're not well controlled. They don't meet standards. However, they are necessary life-saving products. So let's take a look at what happened here. You're a contract manufacturing organization or a pharmaceutical manufacturer. You're being inspected by the FDA. They are aware that you manufacture products which are not associated with the regulatory filing. They ask you why you feel these products are safe. So what do? You are making it for someone, your job. You aren't responsible for the filing. You're only responsible for manufacturing the product, testing it, and releasing it to your client for further disposition, right? Okay, so let's look at your options here. You call your corporate office or the client and ask them to give you a memo saying that they have authorized you to manufacture these products, and that if they stop you from manufacturing them, it will result in a drug shortage. So what does this say about someone's quality culture? Well, it doesn't speak very highly to it. You're not in control. You're going to threaten the FDA with a drug shortage should they stop you from manufacturing this product, right? And you aren't even concerned, you haven't even addressed the issue of whether it's safe and effective or even appropriate for you to be manufacturing these products. So your clients put you in a bad spot. You don't really have a good quality agreement. They're not helping you, and you're having to answer for them and their bad practices. Okay, let's look at option 2. You tell them that you have a supply agreement schedule to manufacture these products and that the concerns over their safety should be addressed with your client and or their corporate offices. So this is pass the buck. Again, you're not looking at your system. You're not looking at your ability to make these products safe and effective. You're just churning them out per the client's instructions, and you're passing the buck. It does not speak well to your culture, nor does it speak well with your relationship with your supplier or with your client, right? There's no indication that you're going to have a conversation with them, that you're going to try to work things through, have a good quality agreement that everybody understands whose responsibilities. There's just nothing here. It's just a pass the buck, which again is not reflective of a robust quality management system. Okay. The last answer is you tell them that it doesn't matter to you whether there's a regulatory filing associated with these products because they are handled as part of your quality system. If any changes are needed, the changes are handled under the change control system. Raw materials and commodities used in the manufacturing of the products are handled in your supplier quality program, and any deviations during manufacturing are recorded and investigated as a part of your investigation procedure. You use validated methods for all product testing, and you have validated the manufacturing process, which includes filter validation results. So this one speaks to a very robust, confident quality culture. You aren't concerned, you're concerned with your operations. You're concerned with how you handle the products. You've brought them into your house. You've put them into your quality system. You're monitoring them for deviations, investigations, applying that knowledge for continuous process improvement. You've validated the product testing, the equipment. You're treating it as your own, and you've got checkpoints that are consistent with modern thinking, and it reflects well on your quality system because you're confident that you can bring them in and manufacture safe and effective products for the patients. So this was actually the answer that was given. While it wasn't totally accepted, it was accepted by the auditor and gave them the ability to go back to the client and put the pressure on them to update. But what they saw with your answer was that you treated it seriously and you used current thinking to bring these products or this product into your system so that you were at least confident you were making a quality product that was safe for people, right? So you can see where some, this, your answers, I'm not saying you should make answers to suit, oh, we have a robust quality system because I have all these wonderful answers, blah, blah, blah. Your answers need to be realistic and reflective of your quality system, your quality management system. But you want to have a robust quality management system so you can answer thoroughly and completely, and it helps you identify where you have gaps, where you might need to improve your quality management system, how you might need to shore up the training program in the training example, right? How you might want to be a little more timely in the investigation that you presented on your equipment failure, right? That because we stated in that scenario, well, it's not as complete as you wanted, but you had like 2 years to figure that out. So that would be a gap in your system. In this case, you really want to enter into a very robust, it shows you might have an issue with your quality agreements. You want to be in a robust quality agreement, and you want the understanding on your side of what products am I making, why isn't there a filing, what's missing, right? So that you can be confident that when you bring the product in, you are making it to the best of your ability with current thinking about, impurities and suppliers and releasing the product, that you're using validated procedures for all of that. It's kind of, I guess, soft in terms of, as you dig into these, there's a lot of nuances in a quality culture. Some are confident, some are developing, and some are just bad. And your confidence in answering some of these tough questions that come up during audits is going to be based on your knowledge and understanding of your quality management system and how it all ties the system. If we go back to our diagram, right, it's going to help you understand how all these tie together and how you can utilize the information you've collected to answer robustly to the audit question and have confidence that your answer is accepted, right? Because you understood how all of these things in that center, the change management, the quality risk management, your CAPA, how they all fit together to allow you to have robust answers to some of the more difficult questions that come up during audit and inspection. Okay, so I like to end with, Boy George, quality is always fashionable. And I think that's what you have to think about, is presenting to people in your company, your management team, your other, I don't know if you're in quality or not, whoever's on the line listening, but you have to work together to create that robust system that allows you to address sticky situations that arise in audits, and you don't know, you can't predict them, you can't prepare for them. And so, but what you can do is prepare and make sure that you understand your CAPA program, you understand your incoming receipt, your raw material testing, you understand how all of those things, how you maintain your facility, maintain your equipment, validate your equipment, how all of those things pull together so that you and your answers can give a reflection that you are in control, you have a quality management system that is robust, that does drive for continuous improvement, and reflects a robust quality culture. Okay. We have a lot of time for questions and answers. I kind of do that when this presentation usually is interactive. I know we didn't have the capability to do that, but I kind of do it as an interactive. So I actually ask the audience, you know, what do you think this reflects in someone's quality culture?
Yeah, okay, great. Well, Tim jumping back on the line here, Sue. Thanks for the presentation. That was great. A nice quote there by Boy George at the end. Never imagined him being pulled into pharma, but it fits, so nice. Yeah, so we do have some time for Q&A. So if you do have a question for Sue and weren't able to get it in during the talk, now's the time you want to go ahead and do so. Type it into that question box there on your screen. So we've got one here. This attendee would like to know, how can a company's quality leadership become more of a business partner to the company?
Wow. That's not an unusual question. It's, yeah, quality, this bothers me in some ways because quality has an independent, per the regs, if you look at the Code of Federal Regulations in the FDA, there's only one unit that's required, and that is the quality unit. And this is a tough question to answer because quality needs to be independent, because their job is to accept or reject product materials, incoming raw materials, excipients, packaging materials, without being influenced by the amount of money or the financial ramifications of rejecting the product and or incoming raw materials. So as a business partner, the way I would encourage quality, as an example, I worked for a company that had nobody, only quality. It was a 2-shift operation. Quality was only present on the first shift, and only quality could enter deviations into the database for investigational purposes. So this was kind of cumbersome. It did not reflect on a true robust quality management system, because if something happened on the second shift, right, no one was there to enter in the deviation. And we all know that if you catch the deviation right when it's happening, you have a lot more chance of solving it and driving to root cause than if you wait 8 hours, 10 hours to interview what happened, who remembers, who was there. So you want to open up some of those, if you have a quality control unit that likes to be kind of control freakish in a way, you want to have them open up. As far as I know, there's absolutely no regulation that says that the person who made the deviation can't self-report it. And in fact, that's what you want. So you want to get the quality leadership to trust the manufacturing organization by allowing some of these things to happen, opening up some of the systems for input. I know some quality units, here's another example. A quality unit that has to write all the SOPs. So that's really not productive, because there's no way a quality unit person knows all the SOPs when it comes to the operational side of or the technical validation side of it. So what is wrong with what counts is that the people who are performing the functions are actually participating in the writing of the SOP, and not, you know, what happens is if you don't allow, if you can't make the case to allow you to write your own SOPs, if you're in like the operations side and quality says, no, we have to write the SOP, it's our official job, you can't reflect what you're actually doing, and that hinders you. And it drives deviation. So for instance, I'll give you an example there. On a product batch record, I worked at a company, and one of the things I like to do when I start off at a company is look at all their deviations and investigations. Everybody does. Auditors start there, right? So in this particular case, I noticed a line operator who had continuous deviation for the same thing over and over again. And he had like, you know, 10 or 15 of these deviations in a 3-month time period. That's a lot. That's a repeat. And so then I looked at what was the root cause, and the quality people came up with, well, it was human error. So I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And I called in the quality staff and asked them, well, what about this? Jose is making these mistakes over and over. You keep retraining him, he keeps making the mistake, right? Is he qualified to be an operator in the sterile core? Oh, he's so good. That's the answer. He's great. He's so conscientious. He does a wonderful job. But I got to look at the deviation record. It's the same product, same line, same deviation over and over and over again. So I wasn't still satisfied, because human error is never the right answer in most cases when it comes to resolving an investigation. And I found out that everybody just retrained Jose, but nobody actually talked to him. So he was on the second shift, so I showed up and I talked to him, and I said, what's going on here? Because I have concerns that you're making the same mistake over and over again. And he explained to me that there was a part in the batch record that required him to step out, leave the product unattended, degown, sign a certain line in the batch record, go back in and regown, and then continue watching and manufacturing the product. But he didn't like write the record, the batch record. He didn't have any say in the batch record. It was just kind of thrust upon him, because that's what the quality department said, oh, we need to have a signature here. And he said, I'm tired of trying to explain, you know, that I could do my signature on that activity after I get done in the clean room. So it was, what was driving the deviations was a poorly designed batch record that the people who were producing the product had no say in it. It was created by the quality department because they felt that that was their role. I look at a batch record as it's the recipe, it's the overriding SOP for manufacturing the product. So that's a case where you really need, when you're putting together those kinds of documentation, you really need to press on quality that you need to be involved, because it's worth saving the deviations and getting the expertise. The expertise for manufacturing the product doesn't rely on quality. It lies in the operational aspects, right? So you need to have a say in those kinds of documents, what your SOPs say. If you have well-written SOPs for operations, you can eliminate the work instructions that everybody plasters up on their, working stations, because you don't need them, because your SOP is reflective of what you actually do. It's not written by some disembodied third party who thinks they know what you do and puts in all kinds of information that's not needed. I believe SOPs, if they're over 10 pages, that to me is a tome, right? So you can eliminate, and if you can eliminate work instructions, which are like supplemental to an SOP. I know you guys all know what I'm talking about. By having clean, well-written, concise SOPs by the people who are actually performing the activities, that's a plus. And so having quality, what they need to sign off on is that it's GMP and it's properly documented, and there's proper checks and balances throughout the process. But actually how it functions, how you utilize the equipment, how you run the equipment, that's your job. And you need to make sure that you're making that case to quality. And you do that by saying we'll eliminate deviations, we'll eliminate work instructions, and this will all make our process more efficient. I hope that helps. That's a tough one. I've never been asked how quality can become a business partnership, and I'm torn because quality needs to remain independent, right?
Yeah, the same attendee just kind of had a follow-up to that while you were, giving a really thorough answer there, to see how quality leaders can become a better business partner to a company, to be more involved in, he says, a proactive, preventative officiating approach in applying the QMS system. So did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think quality can become a better business partner through their training programs and initiatives.
Right.
I think sometimes we just do okay, here's your annual GMP training, but there's elements, I think a training program should actually have 4 distinct categories. And one is that initial training. You bring everybody in, you tell them what the benefits are, you explain the quality manual, you talk about the systems, the SOPs, what their job function will be, and that's just that initial onboarding. Then you're going to have the periodic training. And the periodic training is going to be that everybody says it's, okay, let's gather for our annual GMP training, but there's more. You can do more like data integrity training, document how to properly fill out documents, how to utilize the LIMS system better, what an audit trail is, audit training, how to behave in an audit, you never know who's going to be called into the audit. So quality can expand their thoughts on training, and as well as doing a basic, here's our quality management system, here's how all these things fit together. Then there's always the continuing education. They should be encouraging people to go to improve their skill sets by attending seminars, webinars like this. And I think quality has a role to talk to senior leadership to allow time for the continuing education and training. And then there's always the additional training of, I think of that as on-the-job training. Someone's like Jose's having a problem with this step, let's train them, but let's find out what's happening. But there's always that on-the-job training. Somebody is not having a good day. Maybe they're having a bad week, right? So you can have other trainers, other people help train them, but you want to, identify certain aspects of training because each one speaks to a different need within the organization. I think that's how
Okay. Sort of a follow-on to that, how would you convince management to invest in quality resources?
So I would talk their talk. Sometimes it's financial. So a couple of things I would do. One, make your quality management reviews meaningful. You need to have them. You don't want to, you need to talk about serious things in those quality management reviews. What's the employee staffing? How many quality people should you have to how many operationals? What's the percentage? Nobody ever there's no hard and fast answer. But usually I go with, 18 to 25% staffing, right? So you should have 18 to 25% quality versus the rest of the organization. There's also, if you have a good quality, what they're investing in, what you're trying to get them to invest in is your quality management system. And you can do that by showing there's a 10 rule. If you catch a deviation or an error or something wrong with your incoming raw materials on incoming inspection, it will cost you $1,000. If you catch it at release, right before release, right? You catch it on incoming inspection. Now you've got it. Let's say you don't catch the deviation, whatever it is. So you catch it right before you release it to be utilized on the manufacturing floor. That may cost you $10,000, right? So the $1,000 is, you're going to return it back to the supplier. The $10,000 is I've already spent a lot of time qualifying this, and I have to take the whole shipment and send it on back. And then if you catch it during your manufacturing process, it's still internal to you. That is going to cost you $100,000. This is just rule of thumb, not hard and fast numbers. And then if you catch it after it gets out into the field, now you're into the $1 million range because you're in recall. So the more you can invest into catching these things and doing, driving to root cause some of the deviations that you're trying to mitigate, the better off the more efficient you're going to be and the more money you're going to save. You don't want to be rejecting product in the middle of the manufacturing run. That's not a good place to be. You want to try and catch your deviations right up front when they're coming in. So that's one way you can talk to senior leadership. There's also, the continuous process improvement aspect. So it takes so much time, Harvard Business, way back, I don't know exactly when, somewhere in the early 2000s, did like a survey of companies, and they found like it takes 2 hours to do an investigation. And if you multiply that by, there's, math that goes with it, but bottom line, if you can, the more deviations that you make, which would be repeat deviations, the more money it's going to cost you. And you can save a lot of money by having that robust campus program, right, where you're driving to root cause. And so that's an investment into the system, into the quality department, into resources that will help you when you present to senior leadership, right? We don't reconcile our CAPAs very quickly in this company because we don't have enough people who are working on them doing the investigation. So we need to invest a little bit in there. And if we do that, we're going to drive to root cause, and then we're going to find out, what we need to implement to make sure the deviation goes away and continuously improve. So we eliminate that deviation, see how that kind of cascades there, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you. I think we're going to take one more question before wrapping things up today. This attendee would like to know if you have any tips on improving a quality culture where a large instinct present is to hide quality issues, like the training example that you had mentioned in your talk.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a big problem, isn't it? Because if you're hiding quality issues, then that means you don't have confidence in your management system to do the investigation. So there's 5 areas I would focus on in improving a quality culture. That's employee ownership and engagement. Continuous improvement is another one. Technical excellence, leadership commitment, and communication and collaboration. So where does this fit in all of that? Probably communication and collaboration and employee empowerment and engagement. Now, I gave you that example where you make them. I'll tell you one. It's kind of silly, but it's that need. It's that overpowering need. You need to get quality kind of out of the clouds and into the real world. When I started at a company, and I was just being I was vice president, the new vice president, and I was reading my SOPs to know what I needed to do. And it was like my first day on the job, and they came running in and said, you have to sign this document. And so I signed it the way I normally signed it. I hadn't gotten to the SOP where it told me what date structure I needed to do. But needless to say, I signed it like 17 July 2024. That's how I write my dates. And they opened up a deviation on me. And I was like, what? It was clear as day what the date was. Well, we have a specific format for our dates, and it's 07/17/24. And so every time anybody used a hyphen or wrote it a different way without the slashes, or maybe the slash looked like a 7, they opened up deviations. So they clouded their system with these meaningless deviations. It took me 2 years to get that changed, but trying to get quality to understand that is not a meaningful deviation and does nothing for the morale. Then everybody becomes afraid to write down the date because I'm going to get a deviation, and then I'm going to have all these deviations, and I'm not going to get my bonus, and they're going to, that you don't want to have those kind of time bombs in your system. As long as it's readable and you can understand the date the person signed it, that's what you need to be focused on. So I would encourage you, if you're having that hiding issues, it's probably because there's some frivolous deviations being reported, and people, you want them focused on manufacturing the product, not on whether they're putting a hyphen or a slash or writing out the date, right? Because now they're more focused on that, and they're not going to make good decisions, and the product is going to suffer, if that makes sense.